His name is Sikle Kuneni, and he comes from TPNA, which is the Transnet National Ports Authority in South Africa. And really like to thank him. We had a week of data management training for CDMP last week or the week before, I can't remember anymore. And Veronica and I presented, and we had a lovely time with them. It was so nice to go and see what was happening in Kucha, how they're progressing, and the challenges that they're facing. And what we did was, as part of our training, we're starting to introduce what we call a PDMMA, which is a professional data management maturity assessment. And that's really, as part of this webinar series, it's about helping people build their data careers, but it's not just for people, but it's also for managers that need to manage teams, that run or are responsible for data initiatives. And then it's also for CDOs that are responsible for resourcing of the data management office and the knowledge areas with the right level of people to achieve what the data strategy is all about. So we're going to have some practical showing and telling of the different areas. And after the introduction, or after giving you some background, I'll ask Sikle to come online, and then we'll talk through some of his challenges that he's facing. Of course, we've anonymized some of the people and things like that, but it's nice to see the results that we are getting and the insights that we can derive. Okay, so if anyone is interested in doing one of these assessments for their companies, please contact Paul or Debbie, and we'll take you through it. Okay, so just before I start, I just wanted to share with you a few people within the DAMA EMEA community have approached me, and they are desperately trying to build a benchmark, an international data maturity assessment benchmark. Okay, so what I thought would be quite helpful is next week, Thursday, we would like to do it all together. It takes 15 to 20 minutes. I'll do an introduction. I've already done it, and I'd like to show you and for us to complete it and give them as much feedback as possible. Of course, what they're looking for is a wide variety of industries and companies across all the different industry sectors, and so that they can get an appropriate benchmark. I don't know how many of you have really tried to find industry-related benchmarks in the different regions, in the different countries, of how other companies are doing in maturity assessment. I've been asked by so many customers, and I really feel this is a helpful exercise, and to give back to people that are trying to set this type of information up. Okay, so that's hopefully for next week, Thursday. All right, so this is where we were. We did it for professionals, for citizens, for teams, for managers, and now we're doing the data office. Okay, so I'm going to miss out or jump across directly into it, because I'd like to get into more of reading of the situation that Sikle finds himself in. He's the current CDO of TNPA. So it's a nice introduction, a nice practical way of doing things. So please shout if you would like any further explanation, but let me see if I can bring you along. Okay, so what's important for the CDO, or the head of data management in any organization, is that they have sufficient skills to deliver on the data strategy, right? So, and this is where I've sort of created these terms and it's not just my terms, it's terms that are used in the industry. So if we look at upskilling, that's where individuals enhance their existing skills. Why do we do it? To advance your career, to adapt to the market, to stay relevant. Okay. Things change. For example, we've seen how over the last 4 or 5 years, how Europe has almost moved entirely to data vault as far as data warehousing is concerned. And so the old dimensional modeling and that is still applicable in some cases, but it's building that enterprise data vault that you can benefit from. And so we're seeing it slowly but surely picking up in other countries, but they are some of the main leaders in that area. Okay, so examples of upskilling, achieving your CDMP specialist certification, making use of generative AI, the new thing that comes along to improve your productivity and efficiency, and then growth along the SFIA level. So remember, that's the skills framework for the information age, and they've got 7 levels. Now, we want to go from lowest level, following all the way up into influencing. Not everybody. Certainly, I would like to get there. And how do we move along that journey? So basically, each level within your current role, you progress along these different levels. And SFIA has 7 levels, and we'd want to get you to the top. Now, the important thing that we need to do as leaders of data management organizations is show people the path that they can go on. So it's not just the case of, oh, you arrive here as a data steward, and that's where you're going to stay for the rest of your life. How do we progress? How do we provide opportunities and growth within each area? Now, reskilling is a little bit different, and that's almost transitioning skills for a career transition. Okay, so pivoting your career, maybe the purpose is your skills are becoming obsolete, and now you want to rework your skills. As an example, that may be the old way which we learned ETL, and now so many of those things have changed with the data lakes and the data engineering. So how do we then transition into a data engineer? So you may have been an ETL developer. Now, how do we move to the new data engineer? Examples: CDMP certification for business SMEs. How do they become a data steward? And almost what we believe your first step is achieving a fundamentals certification, or an administrator becoming a data analyst. Okay, or business SMEs becoming data stewards. These are several different ways in which you may be, one of the business leaders, but becoming a skilled data steward, and then going into coordinating data stewards, executive data stewards, those type of levels is also a journey that you can go. And pivoting means you keep one foot within the business and you're using another foot to step into a new area and get broader understanding. Now, right skilling is for us as CDOs, data management officers, and that's helping people get the right skills for their job to meet the business requirements. Okay, so it's about optimizing the workforce and adapting to business. What are the business requirements? Examples: identifying the skill gaps and providing targeted training that we require for a business strategy to meet the business strategy. And that can be all sorts of things. If a business develops a new capability, business capability, as an example, banks are reaching out and doing insurance. How do we, what skills do we need, and then how do we go after them? And of course, yeah, you may want to have a few people that you approach from outside the organization, but it's always important to build the people within the organization. So recruitment is going to be part of it, but retainment and upskilling and reskilling is probably more important, and you're going to be saving more money. And I'm going to show you some Harvard Business Reviews at the end in terms of some of the discussions around the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation was that period in COVID where so many people were sent home and then all sorts of changes came about. Okay. And then, of course, adjusting team structures. So, how do we adjust our team structure from the old waterfall to going into agile, into moving into data value driven? These are all different, require different team structures to be able to deliver. Okay. All right. And again, please shout if you'd like some more information. So what's the benefits of upskilling, career advancement, job security, personal accomplishment? And the prerequisites is just continual learning and a desire to progress in wherever you are. Reskilling, career pivoting, being able to adapt, being able to diversify. Okay, maybe your current skills are obsolete, or they're busy becoming obsolete, and we're seeing that with a lot of the new AI stuff. That yes, your current repetitive tasks may be becoming obsolete, and you're going to now have to learn how to work together with a machine and machine learning models to improve what you're doing. When it comes to right skilling, we're talking about the office efficiency. You know, employees perform better when skills match job requirements and business requirements, cost reduction, agility. And the prerequisites for that is continuous learning, aligning with the business goals. How do we do that in terms of the DMO? Well, you've got to get a data strategy that aligns to the business strategy. We're not talking technology, we're talking about what data requirements does the business have. And then you've got to have a decent set of job profiles for these new uh, business requirements or technologies or approaches that you're going to take on. What is the right set of job profiles? And then what are the skill levels required by those job profiles? Okay, so there's quite a bit of stuff to be done by the CDOs to actually get this right and to get set up. And hopefully I'm going to show you some examples of that as we talk through this. Now, first of all, of course, we'd want to start with the right skilling business case. Yes, the L&D departments are focusing on upskilling and reskilling, but when the CDOs starts to recognize that their data strategy are dealing with brand new things and areas that they need to go into, one of the biggest problems that they find is that they've got a skills gap. We talk about that 3-in-1 data strategy. So you take your data strategy and you break it up into the urgent problems, challenges, friction that the business have with data, then getting the right people to take on the target strategy in terms of some of the new directions that the business wants to go in and the new opportunities that are being exposed through lots of advancements within the business and within the technology area. So quickly, we need to develop a skills gap, and then we need to develop a data talent strategy to get and address the skills gap. Okay. And then, of course, as part of the business case, you want to be able to say, well, how do we reduce costs? How do we deal with redundancy issues? How do we, and that would be reskilling, you know, so certain people have become redundant. Sometimes I had a great experience in my career where I transitioned from the mainframe to the PCs, and so many people just didn't want to go there, and so that mainframe environment was very prone to lots of redundancies and retrenchments. How do you reskill yourself to a different platform? Recruitment, and again, that's retainment, productivity. These are important things. ROI. How do we justify that this reskilling, upskilling, and right skilling is going to improve retention, reduce recruitment fees, provide organizational agility, basically the technical capability to handle innovation. So what does the business want to do, and are we technically capable of delivering at speed and to be able to change the innovation within the organization, and of course, strategic alignment to deliver business goals. Okay, notice I'm not using the term data management strategy because I see that as more of a technology area that helps us address the different knowledge areas across the entire DMBOK, and how are we going to automate certain things, how are we going to bring in a lower level of implementation of the data strategy. Okay. All right. Just to pause, I don't see anybody asking questions. Is everyone comfortable with what I'm suggesting? Can you see the importance of the CDO having to prepare this data talent strategy? How many of you have done it? Has there anybody put this together? Kiro, I see you. Is this something that you've been involved with? Is something you're doing?
It's something that I want to get involved in, just don't have the opportunity yet.
Okay. Fantastic.
So I'm kind of going off on my own missions, not sure whether I'm doing the right thing or not, and waiting for the opportunity to present itself.
Okay, great. So happy to share resources and that with you, so that you can get an understanding of what we're trying to achieve. Magella, how are you doing?
Hi, hello, how are you?
Hi.
Fine, thank you. Thank you for the book. I really appreciate that. And sorry, but I was late in this webinar, but in my head, I just thinking if there is some coaching to analyze the three process, the right skill, the upskills, and the other one.
Yes.
So yes, there should be some like a coaching just to
Definitely.
identify what is the gaps between all of those.
Definitely.
Okay,
Definitely,
perfect.
Magella. And one of the things we talk about in change management is what we call the trough of depression, where people are undergoing change, and there's a
Okay.
fear that they're not going to be able to take on this change, and we need coaching to get them across and not go into that trough of depression, so that and coaching and mentoring, so that they will get across and take on these new skills and capabilities so that they can progress in their career. I think it's very important, Magella, and I think that's a very helpful facility within organizations to have.
Yes, and this coaching is personal, one by one, or if the coaching in the organization.
Okay, so
Could be
we
both.
we do we do coaching, we do an assessment on the whole team. We then have almost a journey that each individual needs to go on, and then we do basically coaching, and where they can say, okay, these are the things that they need to learn and skills that they need to acquire, and then they can come back to us to say, oh, Howard, how do you do this? How do I achieve this? Now, one can have coaches within the organization, coaches external, and then mentors as well. And what I like to differentiate between coaching and mentoring is, when I mentor you, I will share stories of my career, my experiences, to give you ideas and ways and techniques on how to deal with it. And then coaching is about getting you to, how do I do a data strategy? How do I do a data talent strategy? How do I do the things that I need to do in my business? And how do I overcome resistance or improve engagements? That's sort of where coaching that would fit in.
Thank you very much. That's what I
Excellent.
thought. Okay, yes, that's what I thought. Perfect.
Excellent. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So that's where we are. Thanks for those questions. I really appreciate it. So let's go on. Now we talk about the playbook of that we're going to go through, so that the CDOs need to follow. Okay, so the playbook is trying to simplify it, just trying to give you a handle of what needs to go through. What we do is we assess the acquired knowledge and skills within the organization, and we use these three techniques: thinking styles, strength finders, and a maturity assessment. Okay, then we identify the required, which is basically what do you need to perform your job. And this is almost mandatory that for you to operate as a CDO, operate as a data architect, whatever it is, or a level 7 influencer of data quality, these are the skills that you require. What is required? What is considered to be required by your organization? Okay, now your job profile should be telling you what is required. Okay, now not only do we get it from the job profiles, but we also get it from our data strategy. What is it that we're trying to achieve? And what will be required? What do we need to be capable of doing to deliver on the data strategy? And from there, we get our people gap, and from there, we get our data talent strategy. So that's working with the difference between acquired and required. Okay. Then the next step is to say, well, what is expected? What does the data office expect to be able to do? Okay. And so this gets our data office vision, the value, the data office ROI, the value that the data office wants to produce. And then we call this what we call a data office attention. Where should we be paying attention to achieve the vision and the value? And if you remember my previous month's talk, it was about transforming the data office from being plan, task driven to value and vision and value driven. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. Then we communicate that desired, where do we want to be in terms of with the individuals where they would like to contribute to the data strategy. So what we're trying to do is to say, here, this is where we're going. This is our vision. Now, what would you desire? Where would you desire to be involved? Okay, so this is part of retention and upskilling and even reskilling is now how can you get involved? So it's almost like a market, an opportunity market within the organization to say, this is what we've got available. Who wants to get on board? And I really liked the time we spent with Sikle. He's really just creating this environment, and he brought in a whole lot of SMEs or business people, and he's saying to them, this is what this new world's about. How would you like to get involved? Sikle, is that an appropriate interpretation of the event and the session that we had?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Howard, and hello, everybody. And
Thanks.
yes, indeed. I don't know whether you want me to take a minute or so here or later.
Yes, if you would like to just share a little bit of what your vision is, and so that people can get that understanding.
Oh, lovely. I think the background and the context will be appropriate. Our organization is tasked, mandated to manage 8 commercial ports along the South
Right.
African coastline. Now we have a landlord function. We are regulated and we also regulate terminal
Mm.
operators. There are about 90 of them. So now we are data intensive. So you can
Yeah.
imagine all of the commodities that go through our harbors, we are accountable for them. And our revenue is dependent on that data that moves along our keys. So now positioning, the big challenge, I must share this. A few years ago, the World Bank commissioned a study that was doing benchmarks around all the commercial ports in the world. And sadly, the South African ports, we were languishing in the bottom,
Oh,
the 350, 354. So that put so much pressure on us because what the World
okay.
Bank did, they only use data, and data cannot spin anything. So now that's why we
Yeah.
needed to have a focus on data And what we are doing, and thank you, Howard, we're starting with the upskilling piece to go through CDMP. And yes, we will be taking them to data analytics, data science, and data engineering domains so that we do capture and we do get into be a data-driven organization. Of course, all the good things of data governance, data management are going to be key to give us, because the big challenge was many versions of the truth. If you ask me, Port of Devon, how many commodities it produced last month, you will be shocked how many versions we get. Let me hold the Howard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sikle. And Sikle, I'd like to also suggest that you're not just doing upskilling, but you're actually doing right skilling to say, this is what the business needs, and I need people to do this for me. And you're bringing people in from the business that have never heard about data management to the extent that we have. And that was the week that we had. And I'd love to ask Veronica, because Veronica was really excited about sharing with these people and just seeing how many of them are so keen to learn. Veronica, anything you would like to share in this regard? You're on mute?
Yes, I was so encouraged with the caliber of people that Sikle's got in his team. They're energized, they're vibrant, they are educated, they're brilliant, and I think it's a lot of it is due to Sikle's leadership, and he's a really exciting leader. The people want to follow him, but the future looks good for them because everybody is motivated, and they were asking questions like I've never had people ask questions before in the training. Thanks, Sikle. I really enjoyed last week.
Thank you very much. And Marco, I hope I'm not picking on you, but I do remember you sharing a presentation, and I think it had something to do with the ports and the transport of ships. I remember one image that you shared, and hopefully it's you, maybe someone else, but Marco, do you remember sharing that one image? And I was wondering if you have any experience on industry, on the ports industry, on the shipping industry.
On the ports, not so much. I did use the images.
Yeah.
But it was to illustrate something else in the storyline. But so the only direct experience with industry is the railway for the infrastructure in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in your experience, in terms of, I don't know if you've ever looked at the different industry models between ports and railways. I mean, railways are a big part of the ports, but I don't know if you've looked at any of that. Have you seen any industry models with respect to ports?
No, I haven't, and I usually try to stay away with industry models because it's kind of like a mind map. It gives you an idea, but you still have to dig into your own organization anyway. So
Agreed. But it's helpful for people like us who've never been there to just get an understanding. But I agree with you.
Sure.
Don't take it too far.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Marco. All right.
Yeah, okay.
So then what we're going to do is we need to build a growth plan, action plan, and roadmap, and then monitor and measure. Okay. Monitor and measure your strategic alignment. Monitor and measure the growth in terms of your PDMMA, and we call that burn down. And I'm going to take you through some examples of that. Okay. So how do we do certain assessments of the data office? Here are some ways of doing it. We look at a capability assessment. We look at data office ROI. We look at some of the metrics, knowledge management, employee training. These are the types of things that we can use to assess how we're performing. And so we always need that level of education, measurement, and then understanding the best practices that we are developing. So this is an important part of it. I won't go into too much of that right now. And what I'd like to do is now almost just give you some visualization of the work we did with Sinclair. And of course, I've anonymized some of it, but this is where we're at. So first of all, to start with, I want to just introduce some definitions. So when it comes to a professional maturity assessment, these are the maturity levels that I've defined. Okay. Are you unaware of the capability or the deliverable? So I've never heard of an ontology as an example. What are you talking about? Okay. Are you aware of it? You've heard of it? You have some understanding? Are you knowledgeable? So can you talk to it? Do you know why it's necessary or what it does? You don't even know how it does it. That's the next level. You're a resource, and you're an independent resource. And then you can be a translator. You're a resource that can explain to business people and translate their requirements into technical and technical to business. And then an influencer in terms of you will guide the organization. Okay. So the four important measurements that I take is, first of all, acquired. We come to have it. We have a particular reputation because of one's behavior or activity. So this is the effort I have put into to achieve a competency level. Okay. What is required? It's defined by your job profile. It's considered to be compulsory or considered essential to performing your job. Now, there are cases, and we were actually having this chat about imposter syndrome and fake it till you make it. But there are cases where you get promoted not on what experience you have, but on your capability, that you can actually grab hold of a capability within the organization and you can make it succeed. And there are lots of people that get that advantage, that opportunity, and it's a really nice one to be in, but you've got some ground to cover in the beginning. So there's a little bit of risk that's you're sitting with. Okay, desired, that's something that you strongly wish for or you intend to do. Okay, expected. What are the business expectations of the DMO in terms of data requirements specified in the data strategy? And what level should the DMO be able to operate to make the data strategy technically feasible? So I've seen so many times where we build these most amazing data strategies, but we can't achieve them. They call them BHAGs, big, hairy, ambitious goals. And it's a case of this is fantastic, but how do I get there? How do I get my people there? And how do I achieve what I need to get there? Okay. Now, I use a whole lot of acronyms in the report, but that's because I'm fighting for space on my presentation and my visualization. So I call something DTR, which is distance to required. Okay, now basically that is the required level minus the acquired level. So how far am I away from being to the required level? Okay, now DTE, which is distance to expected, how far am I away from basically expected minus acquired? How far am I away from there? That talks about my talent strategy and that feasibility that we're talking about. And then distance to desired is where does the individual want to be? Okay, how far do you need to travel to achieve your current desired status? Okay, now the reason I'm using distance is that I can apply it to a burn down. Okay, so if I've got 44 units to progress, what does my burn down chart look like? And what should I be doing from here to the end of the milestones to get to zero, that I've achieved what I need to do? Okay, so I'm using the agile approach of that measurement. Okay, risk level. So it's specifically for DTR, distance to required. I've got to get to officially compulsory. Okay, yes, some people believe in me. They believe I can do it, but I can't sit and not achieve what my job profile asks of me to achieve. I can't sit back and say, oh, well, I got the job now. Now I can just sit back and twiddle my thumbs. No, you've got a level, and we potentially have a risk level. Okay. So what we do is we note the risk when you are 2 or more levels away from your required position. Paul, I'm sure you can relate that to when we do data maturity assessments. We basically say that if you're 2 away from where you need to be, then we have a technical feasibility risk. We probably can't achieve it. Mr. Bolton, is that your understanding? Fantastic. Okay, now I use a completeness DQ measurement to when we send out 22 interviews in this regard, or 22. Now, what would a completeness look like? So we need to achieve 80% before the CDO can go ahead and start building the data talent strategy. Okay, anything less than that, and I think you're in dangerous ground. And so we have to push the people to complete the surveys and to get to that right level. Unfortunately, we haven't got there yet, but I know that Sikhla is working on the people and we'll get there. But let's show you what we've got at the moment. But that's what I use. I use an 80% completeness. Okay. All right. So this is sort of what we get. Can you see acquired is the blue, and then required is the dark blue, and then the orange is desired. So here you can see in this situation, we have got to the required level, but we are under almost a level, a unit, we under meeting the required, and we almost 2 distance units away from the desired. Okay, so now we've got a journey. Now we've got a roadmap to reach where we need to go. Okay. Maturity levels. Here we are. Unaware. I have no idea. Aware. I've attended an awareness or a training intervention. Okay, so I've got some understanding. Knowledgeable. I've completed the training and I've achieved a certain level of knowledge about the topic that I'm dealing with. Are you a resource? So you've got international certification. You can function independently in production of the deliverable by performing the process as defined by principles, policies, procedures, and the technology that you have. Translate it. Okay, you've got several years of competency, and you can translate and educate people who are unaware, sorry, not you are, who are unaware of what is required. Influencer, you operate as an influencer within, and you lead people in, and you almost not drag them along, but you pull them along. You set the standards, you set the guidelines, you set the goals. That's where you're going now. Please remember, you yourself are going to go from a journey from company to region to country to international. So good to get the influence within a company. Then you're going to move to a region, country, and then certainly to an international level of recognition. People like Marco that are presenting on international conferences, that's where you want to get to. Okay. So this is the type of information we require. I do include my PD and MA in all of these so people can get an understanding of where I'm at. And these are the different other people that have gone through it. And these are the definitions. So function, this is the assigned role in the data office and your responsibilities. The business unit, these are the core business units that are involved in the steering committee. The burn down rate, basically the speed at which the learner can progress. Okay, how many units can you progress? Okay, and then we've got the milestones in terms of the roadmap, period 1, 2, and 3. And then we've got the phases, or a milestone as a phase within the roadmap that you need to sit with the individuals and then discuss with them the roadmap. And of course, the DMO, the CDO, in terms of the speed that they would like to progress at. Okay, then we have the knowledge area definitions. This comes from the DM box. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'd like to get on to where I need to. But basically, I take everything, all deliverables in the DM block and deliverables that are missing, and we go through an assessment for the individuals, and we take this review. My lowest level of grain is the deliverable, and this is the tangible thing that people can relate to, the tangible deliverable. A data quality assessment, a data quality expectation, a dimension, a physical data model, a logical data model. This is the things that we create in our jobs. And then we've got roles and responsibilities around the process. Okay. All right, so this is what the first thing looks like. This is where we progress, and you can see percentage complete. This is my DQ profile of the PDMMA. What levels are my different units, acquired, desired? Those the people need to fill that in. Now we are at 56% of nulls. Okay, so we've got a way to go. So we got 1,807 items that need to be completed. Okay, but we still collecting the data, and we're looking at what it's telling us at this time. So let me continue here. So this is what we call our navigation dashboard. So you can define the scope. As example, let me look at the activity phase of planning, or just DII, or data quality, or data modeling, or let's just look at Transnet, or the different functions within Transnet, or the risk levels. And we can then go and analyze across all of these different levels. So we analyze at a company level, we analyze at a function, individuals, activity phases, and I'm going to show you for each area you get different insights. Okay, very powerful when you break them down. And then it's then coming to the action plan and roadmap, which is the burn down chart and the burn down calendar. Just so let me go through that, and I'll pause at the end. So here we go. At a company level, all right, this is what Transnet has acquired. This is what it's required, and you're missing the desired level. So you can see this is where we want to go. And now you can see the distances coming out here. Okay, so as we can see here, data governance has got the biggest distance to get to required. So, Sikle, these are from what coming through. This is what it's saying to us, is that it's DG, data integration, data value realization, data quality. These are your distances. And then distance to expected, we've got data governance first, data value realization, data quality. So this is your expectation, Sikle, on where you want to be. So can you see how changing the expected basically gives you a priority on the knowledge areas that you want to get to? So now all of a sudden we're bringing in master data, big data, and others are getting further and further behind. Sikle, you're comfortable with what that's showing you as an organization? Great.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Now we go to a function level, and this is what I find really exciting is notice our data stewards have got the furthest to travel to get to a level that they are comfortable. What's required? So Sikle has brought on a set of new people, and they are going to have to go through this journey. Of course, the chief data officer, which is Sikle, he's got the least distance to travel, but he's still got distance to travel. And each one we need to look at. And now we've got the data analyst and the data scientist, and the data engineer is, I think they've achieved most of their goals. And then we've got distance to expected and distance to desired. So interestingly enough, the data stewards have the furthest to go. The data engineer, Sikle, has got the most expectations on the data engineers, and the data scientist is the person that wants to develop the most. This is a really exciting young guy called Seppo, and he's really keen to learn. Sikle, does this follow your understanding of the way in which you managing those different roles?
It's flowing through. It's flowing through. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so nice to see how the numbers roll up, and now you can analyze it at different levels. These are the important areas to be able to look at. Okay, so now we go into the individual level. Now, what you can see here is this tends to get quite hectic in some cases, where this is what's required, and the red is what is required, the distance to required. Now the alarm bells start going off. Oh, how do we do this? How do we get there? How do we get to these different areas that we want to progress in? So now it's coming down to an individual, which is nice. Now, stepping out of the individual, we start looking at where are our biggest weaknesses within these different phases. And I like this. What this is saying is we've got a long way to go in planning. So lots of your planning issues have to come about. And then we go into operations, and then we go into control. So again, across the different knowledge areas where we need to be paying attention to. And then at your expected levels, the graph changed slightly, and then your different risks that are coming out. Okay, so when we start building an action plan, we need to know where our risks are, and we want to tackle the ones with the biggest risks. Okay, where possible. And then we go again to at the deliverable level. These are the deliverables, an operations plan. Okay, so we've got all the different deliverables here. Define the data governance for the organization. These are the things that we need to work on. Okay. Now, of course, all of this comes out in Power BI. So Veronica always jokes with me that I can't understand anything unless it's in Power BI, which is probably true. And so there's the example of Power BI. And if we go down to a deliverable level, we can see by deliverable, which deliverables, metadata stores, okay, DII, and then we've got the different developments and developing and governance operating framework. These are my risks that I'm trying to get to. Okay, so I can look at any set of deliverables and understand where they're at. So, for example, give me all my planning deliverables. Okay, give me my operational deliverables. Give my development or control deliverables. These are the things that we can start to analyze. Okay, all right, from there, we go into our burn down chart. Now, what you can see here is I've got a trellis diagram of all the different multiples. Here you can see this is the work that Sikhler needs to tackle. These are all the other different people within his organization. And now we're starting to look at individuals and what is their burn down. So there's a burn down level that we have, and we're trying to understand what deliverables they need to understand in terms of a calendar, what the calendar looks like. And then it comes down to a different map of what they need to be doing when, and then we basically get to the end. So Kira, sorry I didn't give you enough time, but this is sort of the map that you want to build. I'm hoping that's giving you a path or a journey. I think you may have left already. Apologies for that. Okay, so just before I give the chance to Sikhler to explain it, I just wanted to give you some really interesting quotes that the Harvard Business Review did on the Great Resignation. I liked some of the things, and these were some of the quotes that came out, and saying basically one of the smartest and most strategic things a company can do is bring on employees who do not just fit one job or requisition, but instead find people who can shift when the business shifts. Okay, next one is, this is a company with more than 4,000 employees, and their vision is careers are employee owned, manager supported, and company enabled. So Sikhler, this is your job. You there to enable the people, enable the careers. Managers are there to support the careers, help find opportunities to get the required skills done. Okay, so you will see where the individual is short and has the distance to go, and you will give them opportunities. But the employee owns the job. They have to physically achieve the levels they need to do. And then in the end, there was this really nice discussion here is basically saying turnover in people is detrimental to our operations. Now, this was a big thing in America with the Great Resignation. People left their business, left the towns, went to go into smaller towns, and they left their jobs. So there was this Great Resignation. Okay, so they had a targeted approach, and they managed to improve retention by 50%. Okay, that was upskilling, reskilling, and right skilling. Okay, so that's sort of where I wanted to end. Claire, I wanted to just check with you in terms of the sort of reports that you're getting and the insights that you're getting. Are these helping you build your talent strategy? Are you seeing what this talent strategy requires?
Yes, yes. Thank you again, Howard. I can just confirm from the feedback from the team. Number one, this gives us an opportunity to move away from opinions to work on
Yes.
real data. You know,
Fantastic.
when you look at this metadata, and then you are able to convince EXCO in a meaningful
Right.
way. Now,
Right.
interacting with one participant who, when we started the course, he told us he's doing a master's in machine learning. Now,
Yes.
when we bumped into each other this morning, we were saying, hey, you know what? Engagement in that session has given me another perspective. I'm changing course, I'm changing direction,
Oh,
where
wow.
my thesis was going. So I found that in terms of the level, I realized I was shallow on top. Now this has given me a perspective. So I think that was a powerful in
Fantastic.
summarizing the impact of the
That's nice.
engagement. Thank you.
And Sikle, isn't this so important for us in this stage of our careers where we're wanting to see the change in the people that we are enabling, right? And it's up to them to start running.
Of course. And the engagement in terms of one was saying, I am focusing on data now. I'm stopping, I'm changing my individual
Nice.
development plan. I'm going to HR to change my year's
Wow.
plan into focusing on data.
And and
So there is
and
amazing individual stories.
yeah. And just to share with everybody, that individual, if I'm correct, he was part of the audiovisual
Yes,
multimedia
the
department, not so Sikle. So what an
correct.
amazing
The thesis
transformation.
one. The thesis one is that one. The one who's changing completely is the supply chain lady.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay, fantastic. Okay, so they're both doing their masters in machine learning. That's lovely. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and allow people to ask questions. I can show more on the Power BI in terms of what it's going to give you. And let me to an extent show you here where we want to look at, we want to look. Okay, there we go. So let's go to the burn down calendar and we can, for example, this is Sikle. And so these are the things he needs to start tackling. He needs to build an operating framework and an operations plan. Sikle, would you agree that these are some of the key things that once you completed your data strategy, this is where you have to master that next level, which is the framework and implementation and operations plan. Would that be an appropriate assessment?
very much so. Yeah, yes, indeed.
Fantastic. And of course you're going to get to quality and big data and things like that. And so what one would do and this is, for example, the Howard Diesel. These are the things that I need to do. Okay. But what's important is that we probably all going to operate at a different pace and a different level. So helpful to have everything there, and we can then look at the clustering, and then we can see where each individual needs to go. Okay. So, anybody else? I think I keep talking and I don't give anybody a chance. Bryant, I know you were interested in doing some of your career planning.
Yes, definitely. And, one of the things I see in these reports is a lot of data, which is great. And I'm wondering how we as I'm looking at this, as I'm going through what you presented, I'm looking at how we package and present this to executives, leadership and organizations, so they can digest it, because it's a lot. It's, what I see, I can digest. How do we package it for them?
Yeah. So what I can share with you is we have a PowerPoint presentation, and you may have seen my LinkedIn post today, where we basically say this is the state of the company. This is where we are at. Okay. So this is what has been happening. And then we will talk about, well, why is it happening? Why are we so far behind in certain cases? Can you see, as an example, in some cases we almost negative, and we need to flip it over. So you're going to be taking some of these areas and explaining, why is the company at this level? Why are the functions operating at that level? You don't really need to go down to the individual, but you can start showing them how each person operates, or what the overall level looks like. Okay, so we build 5 questions. What's happening in terms of our data talent and gaps? Then we answer the next one, which is, why is it happening? Why are we at this level? And then what should we do to fix the problem? And then we have another one in terms of, when will we there? When will we be there? When will we be at expected level? And then the last one was, what are we unaware of? What are we not sure of that we need to pay attention to? So we use this data then as input to a presentation that we then answer those 5 questions.
Helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any comments from anybody else? Questions? Thanks, Marco. And it's nice to see what Sichle is doing, so nice to give them the feedback. Mr. Bolton, anything from your side? What is it that you feel you can help organizations?
No, just my head spinning with so many conversations, even just this week, training 5 people in a class, and literally all of them like, shucks, what do I do when I get back? Where do I start? How do I do this? What do I do? What's the direction? What is the order? What's going to make a difference? How am I going to deliver value quickly? All of that. So just I kind of wish I had this last week to show them. But this is awesome stuff. Thanks, Howard.
Fantastic. Mohammed from Dana, Egypt, Cairo. Any comments from your side? I was talking to you about it a bit earlier. Is there some value that you see in this? Okay. Who else? Anybody else? Yes, we will share it on YouTube. We'll share the link. We'll put it in a post. Debbie will post it. So we'll certainly do that.
Howard, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
This is Marco speaking. So I'm pretty impressed by the stuff that you've shown, and even though I'm not myself involved in this kind of work or planning or measurements, I do see that a couple of my clients are struggling to keep the knowledge that they have that is in people's minds, and somehow keep the levels up. And a lot of what you've shown is the roles, and what kind of training you need to do, how to get on schedule, and I do see some value of that. But I think, and do you? So I have 2 questions. Are you developing this in some sort of service or product that others might take a look at, or so that's the first question.
So we are wanting to when we do the training, Marco, we would, we take people through the entire DMBOK, and you can see here are all the knowledge areas, the activities, the deliverables, and those are, for each deliverable, people need to learn how to do it. They need to learn how to build a communication plan, and they need to have a procedure defining how to do that. And then when they build one, we need to have a measurement to say, well, how well did you build it? What level did you get to? Did you get to, oh, I'm a resource, or oh, I'm an influencer, or whatever it is? So we're looking to make this available so that people can build this for their organizations and then keep measuring how their people are progressing and to what level they're getting. And we are linking it to that Sophia 7 level. So you can then say, okay, I'm starting now as I'm just coming to data governance, but I'm going to follow. And then I'm going to assist, and then I'm going to apply, and then I'm going to, and so we take them up the levels according to the work that's been done. So as an example, the one I'm sharing there, I would look for those people. You're doing data governance, you're in operations. Can you create a business glossary? Can you understand the business requirements? Can you develop policies and procedures? Can you recognize data value? So those are the things that we do, and we try to make it practical, that people know what they need to achieve. Now it's about, how do I achieve it? And have we defined a basic procedure, which we refer to as a SIPOC, to do this and to measure how well we're doing it as an organization.
Okay. I see.
Yeah,
So it's very, I like it. It's a cool setup. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Yes, Paul?
Sorry, man, I just a question. Maybe it's I know we're out of time, but maybe it's an offline question or just a thought for next week. But just thinking about the corporate or the organization maturity assessment results.
Yes.
And because I know your work, I know that the thinking is aligned. I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, if I look at the maturity levels of this PDMA and the maturity levels for an organization, there's just a different definition of what you're measuring or your how you measure. But I'm just trying to connect what this is. The result here is saying I need to do these things to mature, right? To grow in my thing, in my career. I'm just trying to see how I link that to the output of the DMMA for the organization.
Okay. All right. So Paul, let me just show you, and I know you'll recognize this this Excel spreadsheet. Remember, we have this one over here where we're saying these are the knowledge areas, and the attention comes from the DMMA and the data strategy. So what attention do we need to apply to the different knowledge areas? And there you can see level 3 is the highest attention and level 1 is the lowest attention. So what that does is I use it as a multiplier. So when I multiply the artifacts of data governance, because it's so important and we have such a problem there, I'm going to create a higher weight on the data governance deliverables. So the CDO, after doing a maturity assessment and the data strategy, remember, maturity assessment goes to data strategy, then the output that says, shucks, we are seeing we are not technically capable of doing this. And then they would define their attention level. That's the first one. The second one is an expected level. So for basically to deal with where the business is going in the next 3 years, this is the level that I'm expecting we get to in the next set of milestones and the end of the roadmap.
Okay. Nice. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's cool.
And this is where I was spending time with Sikle today. And Sikle, I probably did a bad job explaining to you, but can you see how you're going to drive the attention required and the demand of the resources in this area? Because what I do is when I schedule the work Okay, I'm scheduling it according to the attention levels that you've set.
No, I have no fear. I can clearly follow the focus in terms of this framework, Howard.
Okay, now
I'm
as you
good.
can see, I said that data value realization should get the highest attention. Now, again, I haven't spent time with you, but basically we're saying is the department, you need to produce business value. You need to realize business value to be able to prove to the business that you can do this, and that you're giving them, first of all, that you're going to respond to the World Bank, and second of all, they will support this initiative. So that's where we start. We start by demonstrating value to the business. And we've spoken of some of the initiatives that you'd like to take on is how do I demonstrate value? Whilst I'm demonstrating value, I want to bring governance in.
Yeah, nice. Brilliant. Thank you.
I see Asanda's here. Hi, Asanda, how you doing?
Hi everyone, hope you guys are good.
Yes, good, thanks. Any questions from your side?
No, nothing. I'm just following, just listening. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Magella. Yes.
I was wondering because this approach is for a company or for an organization. That's right. And I was wondering if there is some like a way or forms to assess individuals.
Certainly. So what you'll see here, Magella, is that this is our collection routine. And there, as an example, are my answers. Okay, so you can do this. There we could have Magella there, and you can do that, and you can answer what you've acquired, what you require, and what you desire. And we can use that to analyze where you want to go.
Okay, perfect. That's what I need.
And you can see here, we go across all the knowledge areas. So there's 159 deliverables, and you have to say, well, how good am I at that, creating that deliverable? Okay, and because the deliverable is the most tangible, that's something you can relate to. And if you can't, we can find a definition for you, and then you say, oh, okay, now I get it. Either I'm unaware of it, or I'm aware, or whatever it is. And this is where so you can do this as an individual, or we can do it as 22 people within an organization. And so you can operate at all the different levels. And then the function that the learner performs is where we start building the teams and different perspectives that we have within the organization.
Okay, thank you. Yes, what I have in mind is just to have an idea how far I am for a certification, or maybe not for the certification, but for select the 3 areas I'm wanted to achieve.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
You know, the 3 areas I want to go. For example, in my case, is data governance one of those. Okay.
Yes.
So I don't know how far I am for that. You know, for the knowledge.
So Magella, we can share the spreadsheet with you. We are building a course where we take people through the assessments and help them see the data that they have, and we can talk through some approach of getting to building an action plan and a roadmap.
Perfect.
Yeah, if I were to come in, Howard, Magella, that's where it begins. It begins with the individual in this assessment.
Yeah.
There was a part that Howard indicated in terms of the thinking styles, as well as your strengths. So it talks to you, and then by the time you get to analyzing, you are conscious of where you are and what you want to achieve and the desired. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that the the point is, I'm not working at this time. I know belong to any organization. Okay, it's just personal. Okay, it's just to achieve my goals, my personal goals. Okay, it's in data management, and that's it. That's my point. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So Magella, yes, what we are finding, and this has been an amazing experience for us, is that initially we just started at the individuals, and then we realized, shucks, the individuals can't operate without the company. So and if you don't have a company, you may set yourself up as a consultant. So you're basically saying, this is my value proposition to customers. Okay, so that's the way you would tackle it. You would treat yourself as a consultant, and you want to be able to market your services and your skills.
Exactly.
And you want to build you want to build your journey. Now, what Paul and I discovered, which was quite interesting, is that we start off at the individuals, but and then Veronica and I, and we had a great with a learning academy, and Sikle is helping us there. But we actually had a learning academy where we had, Veronica was the 25 graduates that were introduced to an academy for an insurance company, and we then did the assessments with the individuals. What we were blown away by was when we brought their managers into the discussion to be able to say, can you see how you can facilitate the individuals of the learning and the requirements? If you tell us what your requirements are, then we can map your requirements to their needs and assessments, and we can help build a path for them.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah. Any comments from you, Paul? Veronica?
No, I'm good, Howard. Thanks. I'm just keen to sit and map this to that strategy, the data strategy, to work that out in my mind. But that's cool, that connection. And then, if I just can, also that there's a question here. How long did it take to complete the digital maturity assessment on Transnet? So I'll leave you to answer that if that's cool. But sure. I just think that person, I don't know who it is, OT, that asked it, but you'll be blown away that although it's complex, yes, and although it's a ton of work, it's really doable quite quickly in the context of, what we think it might take, and I think you'll be surprised by his answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Veronica, would you like to share?
I just wanted to say that this personal maturity assessment has been growing. How it put it together and for assessing the person, where the person is, but also giving it a little bit of extra meat that gives someone value. That there's a place to collect your accomplishments so that you can easily maintain and at the drop of a hat produce a CV, a relevant CV. But apart from that, the way it's been growing, like when we first piloted it with the grads, and we hadn't invited the managers, we hadn't thought about that, and one asked if she could bring her manager, and that was when we saw the power of it and how we can use it as well to help people to get into the right projects. And we've got this how many videos, how many webinars have we got recorded? It must be like 270 or something webinars that we've got recorded, and that's we're busy cataloging them and curating them, and that's also part of it, that once we've built this whole offering, we can give people a pathway, and that involves some of the learning that we've already webinars we've already had. So it's really, it's one of those things that's growing and coming together, and it's amazing to see how useful it is to people. And also, can I just add as well that Howard and I, when we started with our careers, we didn't really have the idea of I think he was more than me. I was just, I went with one job. I got the job as a DBA at Edgar's because I could get 20% of my clothes. I didn't even know what a DBA was. It was like we were not in the driving seat of our careers. We just flew from one job to another. I went to work for IBM. It was ISM then, because I thought that was a cool thing to do, not because it was going to advance me in any way. And here we're helping young people to actually be the drivers of their careers and steer themselves rather than just being, you know, blown from side to side. Very important that you to get fulfillment later on in your career, that you know you've given it your best shot and you've gone the way you wanted to go.
And I think, Veronica, that you did refer to young people, but I promise you, the number of people that are approaching retirement and saying, "What do I do after this? Where do I go?" Paul, I use you as example. We're working with Paul as well all the time. All of us need to be paying attention, because we get caught up in the rush, and then we look back and say, "What have I done? What have I achieved? Where have I got to in terms of my career?" So don't underestimate how scary it gets for people reaching retirement, or even in their 40s, where they start saying, "And now what do I do? Do I just wait for retirement? Do I hang it out, or where do I go?"
Yeah.
Yes, just to add, it didn't take much time for this assessment. Take away the pressure of the quizzes and the other, and doing the exam pre and post. A week was a sufficient OT.
Yeah. So OT, we got it done in a week. Now, what I can share with you is what we did was, we basically, when Veronica was doing the training, the idea was to say, okay, you've now done the training in data governance. Okay, now tell us, from what you've heard, where are you in the path of data governance? Where are you in the path of data quality? So Magella, that's something I can really recommend you do, is that when you're going through these assessments, spend some time in just reading the chapter in the DMBOK to give you a background, and then say, well, okay, where am I now? What I'll certainly do with Transnet, and if they would like to take this further, is then say, okay, I see you've marked yourself at this level. Can you give me evidence that you've got to that level? This is what I'm looking for. Can you show me how you've done that? So because it's at a deliverable, it's really easy to say, well, what is the evidence? Now, what Veronica was talking about is, what we have is what we call an asset vault. We learned this from a marketing person. And what you want to be able to do is record all of the work that you've done that gets you to that level, and that you can actually show that. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's my point. Okay, because I've been I did many assignments and get many skills. Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, I do data modeling, data quality, data governance, data management, loading data, etc. Business analyst, data analyst, many things. But how far I am really where I am.
Yeah,
and
and
the book. Okay, that's my point.
that's right. Okay. And I'm trying to look for an example of the asset vault that we build for people.
Yes, exactly.
And so we can
start to read the book. Okay, I will start to study and seriously. Okay, seriously.
fantastic.
And to my
Fantastic.
yes, and to my
This
my
is almost the benchmark. So the reason why we use the DMBOK framework is that's the benchmark. So I'm hoping you can see here. Can you see here is the asset vault that we have? There's evidence of all the knowledge, the conferences, the webinars that you talk. What did you do in terms of that situation? I'm hoping you can see this is where you would record the information. Who was the guest speaker? So you want to record it each time you've done it. What skills have I got in terms of qualifications? What is my competency level? in terms of my working experience and the deliverables, and then working with regulators, working with institutions like ISO, and there's basically an asset vault that you produce that you can, and then we can do a visualization of the work that you've done. And so you can use that, as Veronica said, to generate your CV, to demonstrate that, so that when you get into the actual CV and presentation, you can say, here it is, and you won't forget what you've done, and they can ask you questions on that. So that's also part of it. That's what we see coming out of it. All righty. Guys, thank you very much. It's been great. Thanks for spending time. And certainly if you have any questions, please reach out to Debbie or Paul or myself or Veronica, and we'll like to help you as much as we can. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Mohammed, good to see you. Thanks, Sikhle. Thanks for your involvement. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Howard.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye, everyone.